Legend has it, bodybuilding shows are won from the front, and powerlifting competitions are won from the back, just like how your girl is well known for getting back shots at the company Christmas party. Hi, I'm Patrick, and though the only woman on the face of this earth who has low enough standards to f me is your own mother, I'm still in the top 50 all-time powerlifters. So shut the f up for a moment and let me teach you how to be stronger. Powerlifting is the missionary position of strength sports. You've got squat, you got bench, you got deadlift. Simple as that. Which means we can use the power of autism to hyper-focus on a specific aspect whenever we're doing any sort of movement. So whenever you're doing accessory movements, you're not just doing accessory movements. You've got an ulterior motive and a secondary goal every time you get under something that isn't a squat, bench, or deadlift. Now, the squat, the bench, and the deadlift, all three of them are full body movements if you're doing it right. But there are certain muscle groups within those movements that are primary movers, primary stabilizers, and important to train up for all three of those movements. And we're going to be going over the best way to go about training these muscles today. The science nerds out there will call the muscle groups that we're going to be talking about today the latissimus dorsi, or the lats. Or if you've ever seen a woman naked before, you'll know that it's the wings that make you look big. But unlike bodybuilders, we really don't care as powerlifters whether or not we look like a king cobra trying to attack something. We just want really big, really strong backs. But training back is more than just training back. You've got different mechanics for different movements. So you train your back different for squats than you do for bench. You train your back different for deadlifts than you do for squats. It makes sense if you think about it more than 2 seconds. One of the major cues for all three lifts is engage the lats, but you don't engage your lats the same that you do for squats, that you do for bench or deadlift. There's a completely different set of cues, different mechanics, different kind of motion that you have to go through in order to get your lats engaged on bench or squats or deadlifts. So why don't we pull out a little bag of tricks, of specificity, and kind of lean into what those cues are while we're training the back. If you think about it, there are 3 planes of motion when you're performing the squat, the bench, or the deadlift. And each one operates in a singular plane of motion. On squats, you're pulling down. On bench, you're pulling back. And on deadlifts, you're pulling up. Now, before we jump into the meat and potatoes of today's video, let's talk about what some people might consider cheating. Using straps or hooks, something to help you connect your body to the bar in order to train your back, is sometimes considered cheating. And those people who say that are generally not as strong as people who use straps or hooks to connect themselves to the bar so that they can lift more. You see, if you don't use straps or hooks or anything to connect to whatever implement you're using to train your back, the limiting factor on how strong you can train your back becomes how well do you grip the thing? How strong is your grip strength? How strong are your forearms? So by using straps, by using hooks, you are mitigating the weakness of your grip of your forearms away from stifling the progress that you'll get on your back. And I know what you're thinking. Well, but Papa, but Daddy, I train my forearms, I train my wrists by training back at the same time. You're stupid and you're small and you're weak. Stop being a disappointment. Make Papa proud and throw on some damn straps, throw on some damn hooks, make your back big, and then train your grip independently so that you are not suboptimally training your grip by doing back movements. And you're not suboptimally training your back by doing grip movements, and sack up and do them separately. But also recognize if you throw any of this shit on your wrist when you're setting up to do a deadlift, you're a pussy. And your mom should have aborted you. The first movement we're going to be talking about today is the range of motion, the plane of motion for the squats. You want to train your back for squats in the downward plane of motion. I've got my straps hooked up for this weight that I'm going to be demoing for you that is way too light for me to need straps. Just ignore it for a second. So, doing lat pull downs, and you want the maximal range of motion. So, you want the weight to be pulling you at the top. You want to feel stretch in your lats, in your wings. You want to pull down, and you want to contract, and you feel the scaps kind of pinch them together, and feel the flex in your wings, in your lats. You want to hold it for a moment, and then slowly let it descend back to the top of the weight stack. You want to go in a tempo. You got this top, you want to hold it at the top for about 2 count, internal 2 count. We're not doing seconds, we're not doing Mississippis, because none of us are honest when we do that, and also it's too long. So we get a 2 count, 1, 2, we explode down, so that's a 0, and then we hold it here for a second, and then a 3 count all the way down. And then you feel a stretch for 2, explode down, hold it, slowly let it back up. Now, I know what you're thinking. Papa, Daddy Patrick, when we're doing squats, the bar is behind us. Now, if you're a little pansy and you've never actually done any sort of shoulder mobility, it's going to be a little difficult for you to get into that position. But it would be beneficial for you to do behind the head, behind the neck, lat pull down. So you go down and you see how basically we're in a squatting position here. You want to feel that tension. You want to be imitating the cues that you have in your squats when you're performing a back exercise like this. So you want to hold it and then slowly let it go back down. Get a slow eccentric. Feel the stretch at the top. Get yourself so that you don't knock yourself out like a dummy. You hold it and let it back down. Now, sometimes lat pull down machines are not gonna be tall enough in order for you to get a full range of motion. So what you gotta do sometimes, and I have it set up here now, is you gotta go on your knees, because you're gonna get that extended range of motion because you wanna feel that stretch at the top. So you take the widest grip you can and you go on your knees, and it's gonna be a little bit of a different angle because you're back, but you still have the same principles. So this is imitating the cues that you need for squats, where you're pinching your scaps, you're rolling your shoulders down, and you're really flexing your lats. And notice, if you look at this, my thumbs are not wrapped around this attachment, because if you wrap it around, you get more bicep involvement in there, and you don't want that. You want to be training your back, not your biceps with this. So hold the attachment, the lat pull down attachment, with your thumb not included. If you want to really lean into your lats, you're going to finger gun it. So you notice how I don't have my thumb or my index finger on the lat pull down attachment. This really isolates the back and gets a little more lat involvement in it. You can do the behind the back as well. It's a little less comfortable because we've got this angle, because we're behind where we're supposed to be. But you want this extended range of motion to really stretch out your lats, because if you don't recognize that accessory movements are stretching under a load, you're probably in pain a lot. So you never compete in the lat pull down. You can do pull-ups. They're completely fine. You just got a little more stabilizers going on there. You never compete in the lat pull down. So you don't need to be a hero in the lat pull down. Recognize accessory movements are stretching under a load, and you can progress the stretch. If you just keep all tension all the time, getting no stretch, you're not going to be developing the neural connection to the muscles, and you're also going to be going down a road of tendinitis and stress tears, because you're not giving your muscles the elasticity it needs to be able to function under heavier loads. And sometimes you need a little bit more elasticity because you get bigger pumps, your muscles expand, and it crests. And you want your muscles to be elastic so it can crest along with it without bursting or tearing, because that's not good. That doesn't feel good. So we do the lat pull down because it imitates the cue to get your lat engaged in the squats. And we're trying to train the same plane of motion that we do in squats with the lat pull down. So it only makes sense to practice those cues when you're not under a load. so that when you do get under a new PR, you got the muscle memory built up, because it takes about 200 reps of something to get a muscle memory developing in that muscle group, in that motor function. Now we're on to bench. It is a well-known fact that bench press is the best lift of the squat, bench, and deadlift. But it's kind of the hardest one to get a back movement to train for the bench press. Now, this gym isn't super fancy. It's just a hometown gym. And so we don't have a lot of specialty equipment. Things like a hammer strength isolateral row, any sort of rowing machines, where it's going to be bringing weight in a monodirectional kind of plane of motion, where when you're benching, you press up and down. You've got that J kind of curve going on there, which you're never going to actually get with a rowing machine. But the best thing that you can do is anything in the plane of motion of back and forth. With the squats, we did down and up. Now we're doing back and forth. Now, so we've got a cable cross here, and we've got a chair. So we're going to take the legs out of the movement. You might need the legs once you get strong enough to kind of brace against whatever implement you're doing. But we've got 25s on here, and we've got a cable set up so that we have the plane of motion in the plane that we bench in. So let me get this set up, and let me get my trusty dusty wrist straps on here so that I can grip it and not train my my grip, be training my back rather than my grip, because that's what we're here for. So you want to feel the weight pull you forward and separate your scaps. You want to feel the stretch in the middle of your back. And when you contract, you bring it all the way to your chest. And you hold it there for 1 count, and then you slowly let it go back down, almost like a 3 count. So we've got this 2, 0, 1, and then a 3 count all the way back down. So we're going through this, and we're feeling the stretch in a different part than where we did when we were doing the lat pull down. We feel the stretch in the middle of the back, whereas in the lat pull down, we're feeling it in the outside of the back, in the wing area. So the reason we do this is we get the full stretch. We want to be as strong as possible in every range of motion. You don't want weak points in your muscles, because that's going to cause weak points in your lifts. So you get the maximum range of motion by feeling the stretch and then contracting in. Now, you're going to have to leave your ego at the doorstep to do this, because you're going to not be able to do heavy weights doing just this range of motion like everyone does all the time. You need to reduce the weight so you can get the full range of motion. If it feels like you're going to tear a muscle, reduce the weight. If it feels like you're going to get injured, reduce the weight. There's no champions when it comes to doing rows. So feel the stretch, compress, hold it to build that iso neural connection, the mind-muscle connection, and let the eccentric be slow, almost like an isometric that's slowly going through every range of motion until you're at the bottom again. Feel the stretch, compress, hold, 3 count back. And that's pretty simple when it comes to training for the bench, the back for the bench. You've got cable rows. Any attachment works. Any attachment, as long as it's in the plane of motion, is going to do wonders. We've got the narrow attachment here because I just wanted it to be different than the lat pull down, but you can use the lat pull down attachment on here, get a nice wide grip, and kind of feel that stretch in different spots and build up strong parts of your muscles in different parts, kind of getting different ranges of motion in there, different muscle activations, so you can be strong throughout the entire latissimus dorsi. The last plane of motion we're going to be talking about is the plane of motion that you use when you're performing the deadlift. So we're on a deadlift platform with a bar with 45s on it on the ground. We're practicing deadlift lat cues. Why not practice it with things that imitate a deadlift? So there's a couple different ways that you can train lats when it comes to the plane of motion for deadlifts. There's Pendlay rows, barbell rows, and Yates rows. Now, Yates rows is not applicable to people who pull hook grip because Yates rows has a double supinated grip and you're pulling in like this. So if you do switch grip, it's good to try both barbell rows because you'll be training the range of motion for your overhand, and Yates rows because that's good for your underhand. That's going to build up both strength in the lats that are required for the underhand, as well as the grip in your underhand. And it's not going to hurt your overhand grip strength by just getting stronger. So let's go over the first of these. And we've got the handy dandy virgin straps, and we're going to attach ourselves to the bar. Now, there's a couple different spots where you can grab the bar. The wider the grip, the more outside the lat is going to be involved. And the narrower the grip, the more trap is going to get involved. So we're going to use our regular deadlift grip. So we're not going to use our regular deadlift grip. We're using the width from our regular deadlift grip because I pull over under. But we're going to do double over with this, and that's why we've got the straps. So attach ourselves to the bar like you attached yourself to your mom and never moved out of her basement. All right, so we're attached to the bar. We got it nice and tight. So pen lay row, you go from the ground to a locked out position. Now, there's no stretching in a pen lay row. You're just at the bottom and you feel the stretch in your hamstrings, which when you're deadlifting, you use your hamstrings. So, I mean, it's not back stretch, but you can kind of start to feel the stretch in your lats. And what you want to do is you want to do the deadlift cue without deadlifting of pinch your scaps and pull them down to get that tension, and then you row the bar. So it looks like this. So notice how I go from completely relaxed right here, and then I pinch my scaps and roll my shoulders down to elongate my arms, and then we compress our lats and we move the bar. So the next version is a regular barbell row. What you want is you want to feel the wedging. The wedging is important with your glutes, your hamstrings, and your heels. So you wedge into the bar and you deadlift it up. You feel the stretch at the bottom. Hold it at the top. Slow eccentric. You want to still feel the stretch at the bottom. You're fully stretched as opposed to when you're just doing it with pen lay rows. You want to feel the stretch at the bottom and then go through your cues to get your lat engagement in the deadlift and then pull into it. So pinch the scaps, roll the arms down, and row. And that's how you do a regular barbell row. The last kind of row is the Yates row, named after Dorian Yates. And what you do is you take a double underhand grip and you basically do a regular barbell row. So it's the same cues as a regular barbell row, except you've got that double under grip. This is going to imitate when you take your deadlift grip. A barbell row is going to be good for this overhand, and the Yates row is building the muscle memory for the underhand. So when you get into position, you've already done the work and you've built the muscle memory of building tension in your lats and your upper body with the barbell rows for the overhand, with the Yates rows for the underhand, and doing pen lay rows is just heavier. You can go heavier with pen lay rows because you don't have that stretch. So when I program my own personal clients, I always make sure their back movement is in the same plane of motion as to whatever movement they're doing in the day. So we went over a lot today, and it may get a little confusing. So just rewatch this video as often as possible or comment below and I'll answer your questions on the topic. But when you're doing back training, it's more than just training your back. You're also practicing the cues for your squat, bench, or deadlift. So you want to feed two birds with one stone by building your back up, building strength in your back, but also reinforcing the cues for that specific lift. But additionally, there's a third bird in this situation that we're feeding with this one scone, and we're using our back accessory movements as stretching under a load to mitigate chances of us getting injured. So if you progress through and you're treating your accessories like it's stretching under a load, you have more elasticity in your muscles that you're training. You're going to be able to have more mobility, and more mobility is never a bad thing. More mobility means you can be stronger in larger ranges of motion. So if you take anything from this video, I want you guys to recognize that there's multiple things going on whenever you are either programmed certain lat movements, accessory movements, and if your coach isn't programming things outside of just, we want a bigger back, so we're gonna do things to make your back bigger, that's a red flag. There should be multiple goals for every accessory movement, whether it be training a different cue, getting stretch under a load, something like that. Build strength in that muscle group. So there's multiple things going on whenever you're doing a back movement. And the best way to train your back is to be mechanically similar to different cues that you have for different lifts. So when we're doing squats, you want to be training that lats down, that pinching motion where you're, if you've got pieces of paper in your armpits, you want those to be nice, tight, and secure while you're performing the squat. So we train the lat pull down to kind of hold that isometric so that when we get under a load, when we've got 8, 9, 1,000 pounds on our back, we're not trying to think about, hey, we need to engage our lats. How do we do this, that? You got the bar on your back. Your brain shouldn't be thinking at all. You should be able to unrack the bar, get the command, and go. Same thing with bench. What am I doing with, I'm pulling into the bar. I'm trying to, no. You've done so many reps in the gym, training your back, training your lats, so that you can be in good position when you're doing the bench that you don't have to think about it. It's almost like ultra instinct with Goku. The less he thinks, the stronger he is. It's all about technique. It's all about developing muscle memory. And then when it comes to the deadlifts, you want to have the most erect deadlift that you can. You don't want ED with your deadlifts. You want your little Cialis of having a stronger back than the rest of your body to not be the weak point on your deadlift. Otherwise, you'll start rounding forward and you'll put your entire spine at risk of herniated discs. And that's not fun to come back from at all. So do your father proud. Start training your lats. Start doing your accessory movements, because this isn't just about training back. Back is the most important muscle group when it comes to powerlifting because it's used in all three lifts. And it's the easiest to show that you can use an accessory movement in order to practice different cues in your lifts without actually performing the lifts. The more practice makes more progress. There's no such thing as perfect in powerlifting. Football may be the game of inches. Powerlifting is the game of consistency and micrometers. So for those of you out there who are trying to be the strongest versions of you possible, think like this. Think outside of the box. Boxes are not for thinking. Boxes are for... It's not, hey, smarter, not harder. You want to be smart and hard. So approach everything with multiple goals in mind, because the more goals that you achieve, the stronger you're going to be on the platform. Anyways, this has been Patrick, your mom's favorite powerlifter. Like, comment, subscribe. Anyways, Patty out.